Good afternoon, everybody. I'm very happy to welcome you at the second EVPA policy webinar of this year. Today's topic is the EU Social Economy Action Plan and the role of investors for impact. My name is Caterina Papari. I am the EVPA Policy and EU Partnerships Associate, and I will facilitate together with my colleagues Bianca Polidoru, EVPA Senior Policy and EU Partnership Manager, and with Tim Jacobs, the EVPA Policy and EU Partnerships Intern, the session of today. Given the high level of participation in this session, we will keep the participants to the webinar muted in order to avoid any noise interferences. But we highly encourage you to raise any questions in the two boxes on the right side. You have a box with the questions and one with the chat. Please do not forget to clearly mention to whom you would like to address it. Last but not least, know that this session is being recorded, so you will soon be able to watch the recording and consult these presentations on the EVPA website. Now that these housekeeping details are clear, let me give you a quick word and introduction about the European Venture Philanthropy Association. EVPA is a network organization currently gathering more than 300 philanthropy and social investors across the world, also people that are interested in practicing venture philanthropy and social investment. Our members include foundations, social investors, academics, financial institutions, and service providers. Our policy work relies on two main pillars. First, as a thought leader within the impact space, EVPA monitors and communicates important developments in the sector at the European and national level and voices the concerns and expectations of its network to policymakers. Second, as a catalyst, EVPA connects relevant stakeholders and facilitates conversation and collaboration between them on key policy topics. Today, we will deepen our knowledge on the current state of art of the preparation and the foreseen structure of the EU Social Economy Action Plan. We will discuss this topic together with great 6 speakers. Let me thank and introduce them. The first speaker, Mia Rossi Gray, Policy Officer on Social Economy in DG Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion at the European Commission. Karel van der Poorten, Policy Officer on Social Economy in DG Grow, Director General for Internal Market, Industry, Entrepreneurship and SMEs, also the European Commission. Davina McPhail, Investment Director at Fitras Partenaires in France. Cristina San Salvador, Expansion and Program Development Manager in Ship2B. Professor Mario Calderini, Director of Tiresia Politecnico di Milano, the School of Management Research Center for Impact Finance and Innovation, and Dr. Markus Freiburg, co-founder of FASE, the financing agency for social entrepreneurship in Germany. We will start the webinar with an overview on the latest developments of the EU Economy Action Plan and the recognition of social and proximity economy presented by Mia and Karel. Then, with the other 4 EVPA members, we will explore the roles of investors for impact under these 2 policy frameworks, especially in 4 EU member states, France, Spain, Italy, and Germany. We will end this webinar with some Q&As moderated by my colleague Tim and followed by an EVPA conclusion. But before leaving the floor to our first speaker, I would like to pass the word to Bianca, who will introduce us to the future EVPA policy position paper. So Bianca, would you like please to give us an overview of the goal of this paper?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Catalina. A warm welcome to everyone also from my side. We are very excited to publish soon the EVPA policy position paper on the EU Action Plan for Social Economy. Today, I will briefly summarize the 5 recommendations which we hope will be taken into account during the adoption and implementation of the EU Action Plan for Social Economy. First recommendation, improving the access to financial and non-financial resources and strengthening the capacity to co-invest. In this sense, the InvestEU program is an opportunity for further developing hybrid financial solutions and educating the market on co-investment. Second, boosting social innovation through sharing best practices and harmonizing regulations in the member states to allow the replicability and the scaling of those practices. Third, impact measurement and management should be used to improve the way of channeling EU funding at national and EU level as fundamental tool to avoid green and social washing and as a milestone towards the future social taxonomy. Third, increasing the visibility and recognition of social enterprises by promoting a consistent use of concepts and definitions within the social impact space and clearer communication among EU social stakeholders. Last one, making the EU social economy system the main landmark within global economy by fostering the work and knowledge of investors for impact as driver of social innovation. For each recommendation, we focus on 4 member states, highlighting the differences among them. It's an honor to have today with us one practitioner from each country: France, Italy, Spain, and Germany.
Indeed, we are very lucky to have these high-level speakers with a lot of expertise. And I would like to pass the floor to our first guest speaker, to Mia, to tell us more about the latest developments of the Social Economy Action Plan. Please, Mia.
Okay, thank you very much, Catalina. Thank you also for the introduction. So my name is indeed Mia Rossi-Gray. I work at the European Commission, DG Employment, and I'm working in the unit that deals with social economy and the action plan in particular. So I'm really happy to be here today to talk about the Social Economy Action Plan. And I will start a little bit, I will start first on the rationale and the political context of the action plan. Because we're, of course, now at a time when the EU is seeking to reinvent an economic model which is based on fair, sustainable and inclusive growth. And here the capacity of the social economy to trigger this transformation is gaining momentum. And the Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen herself has put it that we need to make a systemic modernization across our economy, society and industry. So in this context, the political momentum for the social economy is very high. So since the current Commission started, some 20 Commission initiatives have referred already to the potential of social economy. And this was particularly highlighted in the European Pillar for Social Rights Action Plan, as well as the conclusions of the Porto Social Summit last month. And we are aware of the estimates on social economy. It's estimated that social economy represents 2.8 million entities in Europe, over 13.6 million paid jobs, which is about 6.3% of the working population. But there are, of course, big variations across countries. The paid employment is known to vary between 0.6% to 9.9% among the member states. And this really indicates that in many member states, there's a major untapped potential to further develop and help us reinvent the economy of the future. And that's really the rationale why the Commission is putting forward an action plan on social economy. It will happen this year, towards the end of the year. And here you can see already the slide where you can see you know very well that we are not starting from scratch. We are going to be building on 10 years of experience that we have gained since the 2011 Social Business Initiative and the follow-up of the 2016 Startup and Scale-up Initiative. And as part of our evidence-based building, we have carried out a study, or we commissioned a study to be carried out to help collect evidence on the impact of these initiatives and what are the difficulties faced by social economy organizations, and on the extent to which the EU national and regional policies have adequately addressed them or continue to address them. And for the purpose of this study that I mentioned, over 300 stakeholders were interviewed. This is obviously an important part of the evidence base for the drafting of the action plan. In addition to the study, other work has been carried out to build the evidence base. We have issued a mapping study on social enterprise ecosystems covering 36 European countries, as well as country reviews, policy briefs, and compendia of good practices that have been prepared in cooperation with the OECD. So to move on to the next slide, I will say a couple more words about the consultation process for the upcoming Social Economy Action Plan. So in addition to this data collection and evidence-based building, there was a roadmap published on the action plan on the social economy. It was published for consultation on 1st of March, and this consultation was closed on 26th of April. And we received 133 replies to this consultation. We have also carried out targeted consultation with the European Commission Expert Group on Social Economy. It's, the abbreviation is GECES, and also with the social partners, civil society, and other stakeholders. Also, a major stakeholder meeting was held last month. This was the European Social Economy Summit, which was held as a hybrid meeting between Mannheim and in digital format. And there were some 1,500 participants in this event. And we have reached the end of the consultation process, and we are now digesting all the feedback that we have received and trying to turn that into policy actions. And the way we work on this in the European Commission, DG Employment is in the lead, but well, the next speaker is coming from DG Grow. We are working extremely close with the colleagues in DG Grow on this initiative. And we also work across a whole range, about 25 different Commission departments. It's an incredibly transversal file, and it covers a lot of different policy areas. So we are trying to really break out from our silos in constructing this initiative. Next, I would like to go into a little bit more detail in the main findings of the study on the impact of the SBI that I mentioned just before. So the main findings from the study, one of the main findings is that visibility of social enterprises and the social economy as a whole has increased considerably since 2011. The SBI contributed to the diffusion of the social enterprise concept across EU member states. It has also contributed to raise awareness on the social economy as a broader dynamic in political debates. And social enterprises are increasingly considered important actors, not only by policymakers in social policy, but also in other policies such as regional policy, development, cohesion, innovation policy, climate and environment. The SBI has managed to act on a wide range of fields in which policy support is necessary to create enabling conditions for the development of social enterprises and the social economy in general. The impact of the SBI was particularly high in the areas of regulatory and institutional environment, as well as on access to finance. The impact, however, has varied considerably between member states. There I have to say that the EU funding through EU level instruments, and in particular through the 1 billion euros of European Social Fund money, have been real game changers and have enabled many countries or regions to adopt social enterprise or social economy strategies. And to elaborate a little bit on the enhanced access to finance, it was found that EU level instruments on finance are effective, in particular the EC guarantee schemes. However, despite this, the situation of availability of finance has not changed for most stakeholders. There are big regional differences, for instance. But in any case, it's maintained that EC instruments should be maintained and extended to lever funding for the social economy and to stimulate the development of national social finance markets. And there also important aspect is awareness raising and capacity building is also necessary at the level of financial intermediary organizations and for social economy organizations. One positive element of the SBI has been the ecosystem approach on social economy. The analysis has shown that the development of social enterprises and the social economy cannot be built on fragmented measures. It requires an ecosystem perspective. Regarding access to finance, for instance, we require not only available funds, but also access to specific financial products at local level and a specific understanding and treatment of social economy in the financial entities. We are going to continue this ecosystem perspective. And we need to also strengthen the visibility of the social economy and its beneficial role in sustainable and inclusive development. We need to improve the statistical information on social economy. This would contribute to better understanding the sector and all the benefits that it offers to our society. And indeed, support to social economy organization is not an end in itself, but it will contribute to local and regional development and addressing social and societal needs. And one final finding, the ecosystem of social economy has increasingly become more complex over the last 10 years, and there's still really a need for action, and new, more specific needs are emerging. So that's really the overview of the feedback on the previous initiative, and on which we will now build the Social Economy Action Plan. And I will just, as a final point, because I believe in this audience, in particular, the Invest EU is a very interesting aspect. The Invest EU is one part of the ecosystem for supporting the social economy through repayable finance. So Invest EU is the European Union investment program, which includes under its roof all the EU level financial instruments, including those that were under the easy financial instruments from 2014 to 2020. And the idea is to have one umbrella program to simplify and create synergies and coherence across relevant EU policies. There are 4 windows under Invest EU: sustainable infrastructure, research and innovation window, the SME window, and the social investment and skills window. And the social investment and skills window is about 2.8 billion euros. This is the current budget allocation, and it covers microfinance, social enterprise finance, education, training and skills, and social infrastructure and services. And one point I'd like to say is that we indeed intend to cover to continue the financial instruments under EC and FC from the previous programming period. But in order to meet the continuous and even increasing demand for investment products for social enterprises, the Commission is considering to propose an increase to the maximum amount per final recipient per social enterprise, in this case, from the current 500,000 euros to, in the future under Invest EU, it would be 2 million euros. And but I cannot give you a lot of details, are still under negotiation, and I cannot go into a lot of detail on the other products. And in addition, I believe I have come to the end of my 10 minutes. So thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to receiving some questions from you later. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mia, for guiding us through all this roadmap towards the EU Social Economy Action Plan, and especially for making the link also with all the EU funding opportunities supporting the plan. I would like to remind all the participants to write the questions in the chat or in the question box. And now, Carol, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Catalina. Thank you very much for the invitation. I hope you can hear me well. I assume that is the case. Dear colleague speakers, dear members of EVPA and other participants, thank you very much for the invitation. My name is Karel van der Poorten, also working for the European Commission, DG GROW. I will continue basically on all the essential information that Mia already gave on the Social Economy Action Plan, with a perspective from DG GROW, which is the main Directorate General for Industries, SMEs, Entrepreneurship, and the Single Market, of course. You can go to the next or to the first slide. Small overview about the points of discussion today. So most importantly, the renewed industrial strategy as published on the 5th of May, a small hint to the Pact for Skills, a small hint to social taxonomy, just like the European social economy regions, a small hint to clusters of social and ecological innovation, cross-border cooperation for social economy, of course, the Affordable Housing Initiative, and a small dessert, the Social Economy Diary. So let's kick off. With the renewed industrial strategy, very important. The Commission basically had published in 2020 in March an industrial strategy, and all of a sudden that was not, I would not say relevant anymore, but that was really not adapted to the new circumstances given COVID-19. So therefore the Commission worked 1 year very hard to come up with a renewed and a reinforced recovery strategy for the European industry. with the single market emergency instrument, which was really necessary given the many troubles that were present in the single market due to COVID-19, closing of borders, restriction on movement of goods, services, but also people, and deepening the single market, because of course many activities in the single market should be free, but are not yet, or face many obstacles. Also for the social economy specifically, I will come back to that later, and monitoring the single market. And as a basis for this monitoring and to come up with specific actions for specific industrial niches, the Commission came up with 14 industrial ecosystems. On the next slide, you will see those 14 ecosystems. And we are very happy that for the very first time, social economy is recognized in one of those 4 ecosystems. You will see on the left side, proximity and social economy. A small word about that. This does not mean that social economy is a separate sector. Social economy is basically present in all these 14 ecosystems, maybe not in defense and space, even though in space you have several open source cooperatives active. So I would not be too surprised to share those with you. But it's a very fundamental message that social economy is so important for industry, and that the classic industrial approach is long time gone. And the Commission that we also want to value those 3 million social economy companies in all the other ecosystems, but also in the very specific social, let's say, activities and the specific social enterprises that are present there. On the next slide, please. A small word about proximity and social economy, as well as civil security ecosystem, where we see social economy as the known approach, using the most known legal forms, associations, cooperatives. I don't need to go too much in detail. You're very much aware of that. But this link with the local communities, with the local economy, makes also the link with the proximity economy, which are businesses operating at a very short, let's say, value chain distance. So they less depend on worldwide value chains. They are operating in a very local aspect. They are also keeping the resources locally, which is incredibly important. There are several transformative initiatives that come forward to this ecosystem, specifically the Social Economy Action Plan. I think Mia has told you all about it. We are very supportive with this ecosystem approach to back also with the industrial policy, the Social Economy Action Plan, which is a very important message, because we want to prevent that social economy is only seen as a social initiative, as social policy. It's also about entrepreneurship, it's about economic activity, and about an industrial economic activity. And that is the key of our industrial ecosystem on social economy. Green transition is not a surprise for you, pretty important, as well as the digital transition, where we want to link this specifically to local cooperative forms, where we have a combination of public authorities, where we have social enterprises, but also the civil society that can form partnerships at the local level to boost some kind of an economic regeneration. That is also the proximity element. One aspect that is very crucial for social economy in the action plan, in the industrial strategy as a wider set, is the Pact for Skills. Every ecosystem has a Pact for Skills, where we want to pool the interest of different parties to invest massively in the skills of their employees. But the one thing that is crucial in the social economy ecosystem is not only the employees are valid related to skills, but also the people they are serving. So that is a very important message that we want to bring. It's people that are considered as target groups. We need to upskill and reskill, but also the employees. And this is a unique element of the social economy ecosystem, let's say. When we are talking about finance, Mia told you all about InvestEU. There is just one new development I would like to share, and I think members of EVPA would be particularly interested, is the taxonomy regulation. You all know that there is a green taxonomy existing yet, but now there are also discussions on a social taxonomy. This is developed within the platform on sustainable finance. Discussions are ongoing, but are very positive. Of course, a social taxonomy is completely different than a green, so many new insights are very necessary. Early July, there will be a report published on social taxonomy with a public consultation, which will be open until end of August. So I would like to flag this already today to you, that in a few days you can access this report, and you will be able to reply to this public consultation. Thank you. Next slide, please. Just for your information, the structure of the platform on sustainable finance, but I come to the next point, which is the European social economy regions. Our major flagship within Grow to support social economy and to create some kind of this European social economy network where we connect to the region specifically that support social enterprises at the local level. We have very specific thematic focuses in the next call that will be open in Q3 of 2021 to have transnational partnerships on skills, on the European Bauhaus, on digital transition, on local Green Deal specifically. So I really would like to welcome to have a look at the call when it's published. That should be end of September, early October, and have a say on that. A specific focus, and that is also coming back to this proximity element, is the cluster of social and ecological innovation. We have within Grow a huge support instrument for industrial clusters in all kinds of sectors, but we want to support this also for social economy clusters or clusters for ecologic innovation. They are present, but they are just not so much known. So these are basically shaped as an industrial cluster, only they want to really promote the local regeneration in terms of ecologic transition, but also in terms of social progress. They want to reach the local elements and the local, let's say, institutions thanks to this local cooperation models, and we would particularly like to promote that in future. Cross-border cooperation on social economy. This is, of course, very important for the functioning of the internal market, where we want to link better social enterprises across borders, where we want to promote business models such as social franchising across borders. It's not because social economy organizations are actively only at the local level that they are not interested in international ambitions, be it in another scaling model, usually in a decentrally scaled model, and not yet in a single central scaling model. And that is particularly what you will find in the report, which is expected for Q4 of 2021, and very crucial to make social economy benefit the single market to the most. Next slide, please. I know that you are already aware about the Affordable Housing Initiative, but I probably know that you're not yet aware that there will be tomorrow actually a big info session on the future actions that will be developed under this initiative, which might also be particularly important for social economy actors first, but also definitely for members of EVPA. As there is a very integrated approach in this Affordable Housing Initiative and a lot of social dimensions we would like to cover here. So I just copied the agenda for you, so you are well aware. And the session will be tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Just one last small message. We are still collecting a lot of stories from the social economy, thanks to our social economy diaries. It's a storytelling data gathering collection, so an alternative way to see which type of needs, which type of obstacles, and also which type of narrative we could create to make this really, to make this European social economy a truth. And this is the way how we try to do that. So if you would like to share 15 minutes of your time and share a story about social economy, that would be of great help for our storytelling and our narrative on social economy. One last message, if I may, and I don't have the slide here. I hope that is not an issue. Also in July, there will be a report published by DG Regio on match funding and crowdfunding. I think that might also be pretty interesting for your members, where they want to use, let's say, crowdfunding platforms to match this with structural funds, such as, for example, ERDF or ESF+. This platform will come up with 4 specific blueprints on how to do that and how to set up local match funding platforms to support civic projects, but also social enterprises, social projects, and social initiatives at wide extent. That report will be available from July this summer. That's all from my side. I gave you a lot of information, but when I see the opportunity, I would try to do that at most. Thank you very much and have a wonderful session.
Thank you, Carol. It was a lot of very comprehensive presentation, but very valuable. And also thank you very much for making the link with the latest updates. Also on the link with crowdfunding platform. It's indeed very valuable.
I thought so.
I would like now maybe to switch a bit the perspective and to listen to our 4 EVPA members, because they are active not only in the social economy ecosystem the from the pan-European perspective, but also in the social economy ecosystem in their countries, in France, Italy, Spain, and Germany. And I would like to give the floor to Davina for explaining what roles plays also FITRA's partners in the French social economy ecosystem. Please, Davina, the floor is yours.
With the microphone, it's better. Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you to the EVPA for organizing this. Very interesting first two speakers. Also very nice to be able to also listen to the Commission. So FITRUST is just a quick briefing on what we do. We are historical, we've been around for a while, impact investing fund based in France, but active in Europe, but also in Asia and Africa, but mostly in Europe. And we have two main activities. One is shareholder engagement, so I will not talk about this today because it's not relevant to the topic. But then the second, the main one is social impact investing. We've been investing in social enterprises for the past since 2006, so more than 15 years, and we invest in very so as we say with 4 impact philosophy and investing in projects that are ready to scale and potentially have a presence also in Europe. And then we also have a small philanthropic activity. But yeah, next slide. So our just to give you an understanding of how we work, the idea is that we support financially all kinds of social enterprises across a big variety of sectors. We also support them non-financially through as equity investors. We are members of the board, but also take this also to the next, really push the mentoring aspect and to support the entrepreneurs of the portfolio with skills and expertise from our shareholders. So yes, a bit kind of the particularity of FITRUST is that we have shareholders, private shareholders, but also public institutional shareholders, among which the EIF. But we ourselves are structured as an investment company, which means that our shareholders are very involved in the way in our decision making and the way we function. So a little bit special. And then on the impact measurement side, so impact is really key to our whole selection process and the selection that we do of companies of the portfolio, and then a monitoring tool. So that's something that we put in place with companies of the portfolio, targets, objectives on impact, and these two elements, the impact in selection and the impact in the monitoring for us is key, and is a double way to ensure that the impact of the portfolio is very strong and at the center of what we do. Next slide. So I was asked to kind of explain a little bit what's the situation in France. I think, well, as was addressed by the previous speakers, I think we see very growing social needs in our countries, both on because the issues were there before, but also because they've been highlighted during the COVID crisis and been placed at the center of attention, also as well as health issues. You can go to the next slide. The key topics that we've identified with the crisis today, of course, so it's nothing new, but I think it's important to mention that for us, and at least we've identified the issues of unemployment, of housing, and as well as security and sanity, having a safe place to live as being a very important issue, as well as education, and something that we all see with this crisis, the dramatic impact of lack of education, lack of training can have on everyone and on our communities. What we've seen in France, it's true that seeing what is done in Europe, we can see that there is a lot of initiatives, of public initiatives in France that have been very crucial for the development of the social economy. Public initiatives, you know, along on the Pact law, Loa Pact, but also on the zero unemployment policies that have really pushed issues in France. We also see many players actually very active and who have been active for a long time on the issue of social economy, be it foundations, of course, and philanthropic initiatives. You can see on the previous one, on the previous slide, but also now classical financial actors who are coming into this market and who are creating a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurs, but also for impact fund like us, because these are also a potential financer and LPs. Yeah, if you can go on the next slide. Yeah, I mean, so the key also drivers for the social economy in France have been the emergence of what we call 90-10, so 90-10 funds. Arrival of funds have been a major, I mean, maybe it's just very basic to say, but having more funds for the sector, you know, has been, of course, the major driver for the development of the social economy. The public, you know, initiatives also that I just mentioned, like national public initiatives, also at the EU level. We also see in France we have something that is quite specific, which is guarantee schemes on equity. This is not just for the social economy, it's mostly for the development of entrepreneurship in the country, where the public administration, the BPI France, allows investors like us to subscribe to guarantees on their equity portfolios. And this has been a very strong push, also allowing investors to really take the risk, because, you know, they have this guarantee behind them, to invest in the social economy. And it's been, in a way, it's been a very strong financial support for funds like us, but it's also a way to really engage the public institutions in investment. And I think these two, it's not, you know, in a way, it's not just the financing, it's also kind of the will of a whole, you know, of a whole system to really support entrepreneurship. But this has been very important. I also mentioned here we have in France legal status. Companies can adopt a social economy status in their founding documents. This has also been a very key element, and so we have classical companies who are doing, you know, in the social economy, who can adopt this special status and be defined as a social enterprise. We also have integration companies. So that's on the next slide. Which is also has been a very important driver, because it has allowed integration companies are basically companies that are transitioning companies for people who are very far away from employment. They can go in these transition companies before they find a permanent job, and have an easier, you know, a kind of a more adapted working environment to face, you know, their usually personal difficulties. And these kinds of companies have also integration company have been very important in development of the social economy, because they're a classic normal company, industrial company, that just has way of integrating their workforce in a smoother way and allowing people to go back in the job market. And these structures have also been very key because they are big companies. So there is integration. Also, there is a consolidation in this sector. And so you don't have a big social economy if you only have very small projects. You also need the development of big leaders and players, and this has also been a very important driver. So just to conclude, I'm not keeping time, but I think what we've seen as an impact investor being in the market for a long time is that social problems can be addressed by social businesses, and we see that a lot. We also see that it takes time for these companies to really develop and become mature and be kind of have a real answer to social issues. It takes time, and so impact investors are there with their passion capital and with the support of main LPs. This will grow, and we're looking forward to that.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Davina. It was perfectly on time, no worries. And also thank you very much also for the very comprehensive overview that you offered to us on the French social investment ecosystem. And now changing a bit of geography, I would like to leave the floor to Professor Mario Calderini, who will share with us his perspective on the Italian social impact investment market. Please, Professor Calderini, the floor is yours. We cannot hear you. If you can, please unmute yourself from the right button on the top. Can you please try to speak? Yes, unfortunately, we cannot hear you. No.
Hello?
Yes, now it's perfect. Thank you very much. The floor is yours.
I was unmuted, but I don't know what's going on. Sorry. I wasted 30 seconds. I'll try to catch up. So I'm very happy with you, and thank you very much for the invitation. I'll try to outline what the political approach to impact finance has been in Italy, and also the practitioner-driven initiatives that have been taken. First of all, one consideration, since the very beginning, since when Prime Minister David Cameron sparked the debate on impact finance with the G8 Task Force initiative, Italy, I would say, with the French and German colleagues, try to, on a political basis, try to define and shape a continental Europe approach to impact finance. And by continental approach to impact finance, I mean basically two features. The first one is that demand side matters. Differently from the typical Anglo-Saxon approach, impact finance is not about supply side. It's not only about supply side of finance, but has to do with the demand side, meaning the social enterprise, the impact-driven enterprises that attract this finance and need the finance to scale up and to scale their impact and the number of beneficiaries and the depth of their impact. And the point is that we need to take into account the characteristic of the demand side of social enterprises in all their different forms if we want to have a political approach to impact finance that is suitable and is compatible and is attractive to the new emerging social economy that has been described by the European colleagues. So this is to say that what the Italian government has tried to do and also the local governments all around the place, was to work on the investment readiness of the social economy, and then to facilitate the access to finance. Historically, beside the participation in G8 task force, we had the Prime Minister Gentiloni a couple of years ago that launched the Impact Finance Commission at the Prime Minister cabinet level, and the idea was to give 30 Italian local administrations resources, quite relevant financial resources, to set up public impact-driven public-private partnership, such as payment for results or impact bonds. And it's the program is actually running. Originally was defined as an outcome fund, but now is more a sort of capacity building fund to help local administration officials to implement and start this kind of programs. So we have 30 local administrations in Italy that have a quite relevant amount of resources to consolidate their capacity, their knowledge, and their ability to define public-private partnership based on impact finance schemes. The second initiative, of course, is the thing that you're seeing displayed, and Italy has in the last 4 years has gone through the reform of the third sector, including the reform of social entrepreneurship. I say has gone through in the last 4 or 5 years because, of course, any bill of law that is passed by the Italian government is not immediate, but takes some 4 or 5 years to be executed. And the relevant point is that many provisions of this bill of law are very favorable and are thought in the perspective of impact finance. For example, in the new Italian scheme, we have that public companies, listed companies, for-profit companies can have the label of social enterprises, of course, provided that they measure their impact and they comply to different regulations that are there to ensure that the social mission is locked. And then at the beginning, when the law was conceived, there was a direct fiscal incentive for impact investors, so a sort of tax relief for the impact investors that were investing equity money in social entrepreneurship, and that was supposed to be a big boost for impact finance on the demand side. On the supply side, but this provision was never actually executed. But this tells you how the spirit is, and the attitude, the political attitude, is very much in favor of impact investing. The third point that I would like to, just before that, if you go back 2 slides, please. The third thing is that, of course, we have a new one more back. This is the thing. The new government, of course, is trying to implement the Next Generation EU Italian Recovery Plan as fast and as efficiently as possible. There are a few important initiatives in the field, political initiatives in the field of impact finance. The most important of which is that the Minister of Infrastructures has set up a special commission that is there to define special financial instruments, sustainable financial instruments based on actual impact measurement that are there. And the spirit of this commission is to allow the minister to spend all infrastructure resources according to very precise impact criteria and sound impact measurement approaches. So this commission is working. I'm part of this commission, actually, is working and is going to deliver a sort of very strong recommendation to the Italian government to use impact finance instruments. And of course, this is important because it will match the private capital that is flowing quite abundantly in the market. There are in Italy at least 4 or 5 new impact-oriented infrastructural funds from private players that are there to match the public and private resources for impact. So this is a very important part of the story. Beside talking about data transparency, I say there are two things. First, within the reform of the third sector, there is a sort of very strong indication, if not an obligation, to implement sound impact measurement practices in social enterprises and in for-profit organizations. Of course, this is an important thing. And I would like to add the fact that because this is a sort of unique experience in the European scenario, is that the Ministry for Research, University and Innovation invested almost relevant amount of money, probably 2 million euros, in Italian university to develop and consolidate knowledge in impact finance and impact measurement. So I would say that in a sort of, as usually, a bit articulated and sparse way, the Italian government has been quite supportive to define a favorable environment for impact finance. Two more things. Yes, and we get to the ecosystem part of the story. Our national promotion bank, that is Cassa Depositi e Prestiti, is launching a special support program for incubators, and within this program there is a special session that is there to support social incubators and social accelerators. So incubator accelerators are especially dedicated to the social economy, and this brings us to the last part of the story. As I said, there were two features in the so-called continental Europe approach to impact finance. One is demand-side matter. The second one is ecosystem matter. And this is, of course, some kind of reflection and research and discussion that has been going on a lot with DG GROW experts that have been very supportive with Italy to nurture this ecosystemic approach that is emerging in Italy. I would mention two experiences that are pretty interesting, that are usually driven by private actors. For example, this one that you're seeing, Torino Social Impact, is driven by the Chamber of Commerce, but is a free platform that gathers almost now 180 relevant players of Turin. That is a pretty large city, 1 million people living there, and the idea is to create the most favorable environment to make of Torino the one of the best places for social entrepreneurship, for new generation social entrepreneurship, and for impact investors in the world. And that means, for example, initiatives that are capacity building for social entrepreneurship, incubation and acceleration initiatives for social enterprises, specialized impact finance activities, one local common impact measurement infrastructure. There is one specific competence center that is there to measure impact for all the actors of the system, the ecosystem that would need it, and many other services that are there to make the environment as attractive as possible for impact investors. And of course, this is an important part of the story. And the other important part is Mind. That is probably the next slide, if there is one more. But anyway, Mind, yes, Mind is the huge 1 million square meters area where the Expo 2015 was staged, and it's a district that is entirely based on impact criteria, and the idea is to build a sort of artificial ecosystem of social impact economy with a specialized impact fund that is dedicated to the ecosystem. And that's a very relevant initiative because it puts together, yes, I'm done, that puts together the technological part and the impact part. Very final, very short comment. There is very much at stake now in the recovery plan, and if we have impact measurements and impact-based public-private partnership, the recovery plan is going to be a success. If not, we have a problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much also for this final note, Professor Calderini. Indeed, we need a lot of successful initiatives as the social impact. Now changing again the geography, I would like to give the floor to Cristina San Salvador. Could you please tell us more about the Spanish social economy?
Hi, thank you. Good morning. Thank you very much for inviting me and SIP2B Foundation. I am Cristina San Salvador and I am the Expansion and Program Development Manager in the Foundation. And please, next slide. SIP2B is 8 years old, the Foundation. Its first mission was different from this one. The first mission was showing or trying to demonstrate that impact could be profitable. And 2 years ago, we changed the mission of the Foundation to this one. And we say now that we work to boost the impact economy, a new economic model that seeks to maximize triple profitability: economic, social, and environmental. Once impact investment field was more or less born, between philanthropy and traditional investment, we feel that we had to carry on trying to spread this word, but also we had to include corporations, we had to include venture philanthropy. As Professor Mario Calderini has said, we think that we have to work in all the spectrum because we have some impact investment funds in Spain, but they are, the majority of them are offering a kind of market yield. So we think we have to develop new tools to these social economy entities and other projects. So here you see that the main challenge we address are health and quality of life, sustainability and environmental, and also education and social labor inclusion. So we define ourselves as an ecosystem builder, as an intermediary, and we work with almost everybody in the ecosystem. In the first place, we work with social entrepreneurship projects, also so both startups, technologically based impact startups, but also social entities, social economy entities, third sector entities, a little bit of everything. And at the same time, we know that we have to work with the investors and the different financiers because we need to channel the fundings to these projects that are initiating their ways. And at the same time, as I have mentioned before, we work with bigger organizations, with corporations, and also with foundations and public administration, because the market is still being constructed in Spain. So we have to incorporate all these agents if we want to make this market bigger and mainstream. So in the next slides, you can see more details about our activity. I'm not going to stop in all of them, but I would like to underline this acceleration part because from FITRAS, they have also mentioned the importance of being in the demand part of the non-financial support. So we were born as an acceleration programs foundation, and we have these 4 main programs. We have other ones, but these are the most important. And these ones that are in the right side, the V value and the scale for impact, I think they are really well known in the social economy field in Spain and also in the third sector. Here you have the services we try to offer to these bigger companies, corporations, foundations, and even public administration organizations. In the next one, you see that we try to work in all the financing spectrum with impact investors, but also with venture philanthropists. And in the last one, you see that we also try to to be an inspirator, because the ecosystem in Spain maybe is not so developed as the other countries. We started to organize this Congress in Impact Economy some years ago, and you have here the figures. We are now trying to organize the 8th edition. So next slide, please. Here you have more results, but we can follow for the next one. And here you have the 3 co-founders of SIP2B, Maite Fibla, Clara Navarro, and Xavi Pont. And 1 year before, they decided, Maite and Xavi decided they wanted to raise a new fund, a bigger fund, because we only had a small one in the investment part. We had a fund around 4 million euro, and they wanted to raise a fund of 50 million euro because they thought that the market of impact startups in Spain was prepared for that. So Maite and Xavi created SIP2B Ventures, our fund manager, and Clara is still holding the foundation. Here you have SIP2B Ventures image, and I want to stop a little bit here, only to explain that in SIP2B we are seeing that the impact investment market in Spain is like having two different approaches. For example, in the SIP2B group, we have the fund manager to try to invest in impact startups, technologically based startups that could be scalable and that could be profitable, also impactful, but also profitable. And they are working on that in the fund manager. And in the foundation, we accelerate this type of startups to help them to have pipeline. But we also are trying to work in the last 2 years in this more venture philanthropy field, trying to maximize social impact in some projects that are more difficult to find the business model, but they could be sustainable or less profitable, but they can be sustainable, and they must access to impact finance, but more specific for them. Here I have tried to put more or less the help we have received from the European Commission until now. We have received support from 2 different programs. In the previous fund, this one I told you before, that was around 4 million euro. We raised 1.5 million from our network of private investors, and the European Investment Fund gave us the 3 other million euro. And this was one of the first impact investment funds in Spain, so it was really important to have this help. And we also received a grant of approximately €500,000 to professionalize the fund. And this was even more important because, as all you know, when you have a small fund in very first phases with a lot of risk, you need to spend a lot of time offering technical assistance, investment readiness, and it was impossible to sustain that with the Commission. So we are really grateful of receiving this grant, because otherwise we couldn't raise this first fund and also the second one. And now, from the part of the fund manager, SIP2B Ventures, we again have raised other 20 million euro from European Investment Fund for this new fund. So we are really grateful of having the opportunity to work with European Commission, and we would like to still look for other avenues to work together. And finally, I want to share with you our perspective about social economy specifically, and about venture philanthropy, because I was saying before that we have the feeling that the impact investment and social entrepreneurship field in Spain, that started more or less 10 years ago, has been more developed from the side of entrepreneurship and venture capital, and not from the social economy and third sector sectors. Now, 10 years later, we entered 2 years ago to the ESG group, and we have our Spain app. And now we are working in trying to develop this impact finance spectrum that Professor Mario told us before. But the first years, the ecosystem was built, as I have said 1 minute ago, more from the perspective of the startups and the venture capital with impact, but trying to look into business models that could be more or less profitable as the market, as other startups. So we think that, can you put a little bit the previous one? We think that it's important to remember that we don't have a single structure in Spain or legal form. I think some countries, the countries that are here today, I think some of them have and some of them don't have. We don't have, and the term of social economy has a long tradition in Spain. So as I have mentioned, we are trying to work with this social economy, more traditional to put them into the space of the impact investment and social entrepreneurship. And regarding the social enterprises, we have a mix of startups that are technologically based, that can be really scalable and offer a yield that is near market. And we have other startups that are maybe focused on employment or education, and they can't offer these yields. So we need to construct these new financing tools that are more patient, that are more that maybe can reduce their profitability returns and ask for more tangible social impact or whatever. So in the previous one that you, if you can put a little bit the previous one, here we are sharing with you the things we are doing specifically in this investing for impact space or venture philanthropy in the foundation. As I have told you, we have been working the last years more in the investing with in the middle, I think, and now we are trying to work in the fund manager in a way and in the foundation in another way, and that's why I am here today, because I am the responsible of this new line of activity, and we think it is very related with the social economy field. And in the last one, I have tried to sum up all of our warnings or general ideas about the future of the social economy in Spain, or this investing for impact or venture philanthropy field. And we think that our local public administration has to be more connected with European Commission. For example, we have seen 1 minute ago that Italy government is very focused on this field. We are managing to join to the Spanish government and also to some regional governments in Spain, but they are entering into the place later. We started as the private sector, and now they are trying to join, but we still are working with them. We think that maybe if we have a more direct bridge, as we have had in our funds, maybe it could be helpful. And I see here Catalina, so I think I have to close. But the last thing is that maybe we need more help in trying to work with hybrid financing, with social impact bonds, because we are different from the rest of the 3 countries. We haven't seen a social impact bond yet in Spain. We have managed, we have tried to do it, and we have almost managed to issue some of them. But I think we need more support from European Commission and trying to develop more interest in our public administration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Cristina. I will quickly give the floor to Marcus for the next 10 minutes, as to keep the last 10 minutes of this webinar for questions, because I see that we already have some in the chat. Please, Marcus, the floor is yours.
Yes, thanks a lot for the kind invitation. My name is Markus Freiburg. I'm the co-founder and managing director of the financing agency for social entrepreneurship in Germany. And I'm glad to share a bit of our experience in Germany over the next 10 minutes, both on a deal-by-deal level and also on a fund level, to finance innovative social enterprises with hybrid financing solutions. Maybe starting with a brief background about FASA. We are a spin-off of Ashoka in Germany, and supporting social enterprises and raising growth capital like a corporate social finance advisor, and really helping them to bridge the death valley between the startup and the growth phase. And we have managed to build up an open pipeline of investment-ready social enterprises, and already closed more than 60 transactions, channeling more than 30 million euros from European impact investors, with actually a closed transaction in 7 member states of the EU, so Germany, Austria, Belgium, Netherlands, Sweden, Poland, and Hungary. So I think it's also very unique, this pan-European focus. And our, let's say, mission is really to contribute towards building an open pan-European pipeline of investment-ready social enterprises. And we have built a network of more than 1,500. Can you go back one slide, please? We have built a network of more than 1,500 impact investors across Europe, and we are really focusing on having investors across the full return spectrum, so from grant givers to, let's say, below market rate investors up to market rate investors. And last year, we also initiated the European Social Innovation and Impact Fund, which is the first European mezzanine fund that is leveraging the easy guarantees. And I will tell you further details in a second. And also very active in terms of thought leadership with multiple supports from the European Commission. I think there was also the transaction cost mentioned. And also now we are part of the Social Innovation Competence Center in Germany. If you look briefly at the market overview in Germany, we still see that the impact first investing market is still a niche market. As you can see on the left-hand side, here are the recent numbers from the Federal Impact Investing Initiative. And you spotted here that the impact first investing market is really tiny with only 60 million. The finance first market with 2.5 billion is already a bit larger, but the majority of the investments have only been done in ESG and SRI related investments. So the potential for really impact investment that are looking for measurable impact is really, let's say, large. And the reason why the ecosystem is not fully developed yet, from our perspective, mainly due to 5 reasons that we have identified together with a market study with McKinsey and Ashoka, and it's shown on the right-hand side. So it's mainly about the active investors that are in the market. So we see that the risk return profile often cannot really attract yet the largest investor group. So that's often more philanthropically motivated investors and high net worth individuals. Secondly, it's also about the investment readiness of the social enterprises and also the limited number of opportunities that are out there in the market. Thirdly, regarding intermediaries, there's also still only a very limited number of intermediaries active in the market. And the fourth point is really about the market infrastructure. So we see often, if you can go back, please, that still the combination of charitable and for-profit models is difficult for social enterprises, as they are often, let's say, combining for-profit and not-for-profit elements. Impact measurement is still a challenge because it's not standardized yet. And maybe one of the hardest boundaries is the last point, let's say, in terms of the mindset, and that there seems to be still a hard boundary, let's say, between a donation-based model that is looking for impact and an investing model that is looking for just risk-adjusted rate of returns. And there's really a need for hybrid financing solution that combines these two elements. If we go to the next slide, that is what we are trying to do with FASE, really to build solutions and bridges between a social enterprise and impact investors, and we support social enterprises in getting investment ready, and then really support them over the whole funding process, from a review of the business model and the impact model, also structuring the deal with different elements, so equity, mezzanine, also blending in grant structures, and then, let's say, reaching out to a network of impact-oriented investors and building a coalition of both investors that can both support financially and also non-financially. And how could that look like? If you go to the next slide, what we see very often is that social enterprises operate with hybrid models. So that means that they operate both in the for-profit and the not-for-profit world. So, for example, you have a not-for-profit entity on the left-hand side. If you could please stay on the previous slide. You see that then the not-for-profit entity runs charitable activities and is financed by donations. And on the other side, you have a for-profit entity that is running the business activity and can be financed via investment. And ideally, then the for-profit entity can also generate surpluses that in the end finance the not-for-profit entities. And you generate a self-sustainable, let's say, entity of not-for-profit and for-profit entity, and that we see is something very common in the social enterprise sector in Germany. and it's also very suitable to finance with mezzanine, as these constructs are often not exit driven. And if you go to the next slide, I just want to briefly share 2 examples from our work in Germany that are using these hybrid structures. One example is Frank Hoffmann, a Schuka fellow from Germany, Discovering Hands. They train blind women to detect breast cancer because of their superior tactile senses, and then basically provide a high quality employment opportunity to blind women that are suffering often from low employment rates, and also improves healthcare prevention, because the sooner the earlier you can detect the breast cancer, you earlier can treat it. And it's an interesting model that Frank has built up, and that is financed via mezzanine financing, and is using also a hybrid organization, as was shown on the previous slide. And if you go to the next slide, Social B, Sarah Brun, is another social enterprise that we have supported. It's the first non-profit temping agency that was, let's say, founded in the wake of the migration and refugee crisis in 2015 to basically integrate refugees into the labor market and into the society. Very interesting model that is operating with a not-for-profit entity, but also as a business model that was financed with a mezzanine investment, but also let's say supplemented with a grant from a foundation to really build this model. So these were 2 examples on the individual deal by deal side, how to leverage hybrid finance for individual social enterprises. And if you go to the slide, thanks. We also have set up the European Social Innovation and Impact Fund, which is the first fund across Europe that is providing patient capital to social enterprises and simultaneously using the easy guarantees that were mentioned before. And it's also the first intermediary in Germany that is using these easy guarantees at all. And it's a closed-end special fund with a target volume of 20 million that shall invest into 60 social enterprises up to 500,000 euros, always together with experienced direct investors. So it could be social business angels, family offices, social venture funds, and foundations, and can only finance social enterprises that have already a proof of concept, and fund them with mezzanine capital. And I think the core feature of the fund is that we received, if you could please stay on the previous slide, that we received 3.2 million in guarantees from the European Commission under the EASY program. And that obviously enables the fund to finance more patiently social enterprises with medium return profiles, and that still have a high impact, that are really operating in this Death Valley. And we see that these enterprises often have challenges in finding appropriate funding from let's say classical funding sources. And the ESEF has done its first 2 closings. It's currently at 8.5 million and has already invested in 8 social enterprises, I think in 4 member states of the European Union, if I'm not mistaken. And is also unique in terms of its investor approach, as it's offering both a layered fund structure with both a junior and a senior tranche. And maybe concluding and going to the next slide, just a few thoughts and ideas for the future working program, what from our perspective should be included. I think one key bottleneck that we really see in order to, let's say, build a single European market of social innovation is the mobilization of more patient capital. And there, obviously, the usage of guarantees or equity guarantees or forced loss capital is really crucial to mobilize additional private capital. On the other side, there's also a significant need for capacity building support. So for accelerator and incubators program that are preparing those social enterprises and helping them to become investment ready. Simultaneously, I think as should to be mentioned as well, so transaction costs are a challenge, especially for small financing rounds up to 500K. And I think it's super important to provide complementary transaction costs to investors to set an incentive to go in this field. And lastly, I think it's also, especially from ESF funds, it can be very interesting to, let's say, find innovative hybrid financing solutions either on the deal-by-deal level or on a fund level that could leverage ESF funds for impact payments. So that could then either complement an investment round on a deal-by-deal level or create a matching fund to supplement, let's say, other investments from investors. Thanks a lot for be interested and looking forward to your questions.
Thank you very much to all speakers. We received a lot of good questions, so I would like to be a little bit quick on this, but thank you very much, Marcus. I would like to start with you, Mia, with the speaker of our, together with Carol, the speaker of the European institutions. I would like to ask you, Mia, what will be the role of national governments in the European Social Economy Action Plan? And how does the European Commission foresee the implementation of the plan at the national level?
Okay, this is, thank you for the question. I think it's actually a very good one. And indeed, the national governments will play a very important role in the implementation of the Social Economy Action Plan. So some of the actions that we will propose can be carried out by the European Commission. But we will encourage and provide incentives for member states also to carry out certain actions in this field. And as an example, just that I thought of, for instance, under European Social Fund, ESF Plus, there are some incentives to promote social innovation. There's, for instance, and here, of course, social economy organizations are often active. There has to be one priority dedicated to social innovation, and there's a 95% co-financing rate. So here the Commission provides the incentive, and we can also provide support to member states for the programming. But ultimately, the member states implement and carry out and do the programming. So that's just one example. The member states, national governments, and also regional governments have a very important role in the implementation.
Okay,
I hope that answers.
Yes, that gave a pretty comprehensive answer. The second question I would like to ask to Professor Calderini. You mentioned the regional innovation clusters. Well, one of the questions related to the potential of regional innovation clusters to lead to unequal developments across Europe. Would you agree with the potential for this? And do you perhaps have any idea, if so, how to avoid such unequal development, like internationally? As well as a little bit relating to this, how to increase the visibility of regional innovation clusters internationally.
Okay.
I hear a little bit of a background noise. Can you try one more time, please?
Okay. I'm supposed to answer question directly right now. Yes. You're not asking question.
Maybe potentially you can unplug your headphones, and in this way.
Better.
It's a bit better. Yes. Thank you very much.
I will answer this question directly while we're collecting more questions.
Sorry, Professor Calderini, unfortunately, it's not really good. Maybe we can try to reconnect and readdress this question also to Carol, because he also tackled this point under his presentation.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Can you hear me? Yes. Sorry.
Unfortunately, the connection is still quite bad. Maybe if you can provide us with.
Okay, I will try now, because the program is going on to telling me I'm deactivating the audio for some reason. Anyway.
Now we can perfectly hear you.
Okay, so I'll try to answer the question right straight away. This last, I mean, and so I understand the question, and it's a very good point. Actually, I'll try to turn it upside down. I actually see the social economy as the great equalizer. For this reason, what we have now is a strong inequality situation that unfortunately, in my opinion, has not been compensated by cohesion policies. And the reason is that we had huge expectations on the knowledge economy to create a lot of wealth for everybody, and this wealth was going to be distributed in an equal way and distributed way across Europe. Unfortunately, what we had is a huge concentration of wealth and opportunities in certain regions and not in other regions. Now, the situation at the moment is that there are regions where we do not have any kind of industrial seed, traditional industrial seed. There is no industry there. So my point is, where do we start from? And my point is, there are two entrepreneurial, let's say, one entrepreneurial network that is equally distributed across Europe, that contains important seeds of entrepreneurship, and it is the social economy, social enterprises. Social enterprises, statistics tell us that social enterprises are the numbers. You have already mentioned the number, but on top of these numbers, we know that these numbers are equally distributed in European regions. So my point is, the needs, that is the market, is distributed. The market of needs is the only market, is the only demand that is equally distributed across Europe. So demand is distributed. The entrepreneurial potential is distributed because social enterprises are all over the place in Europe, right? Now, the point is, we have a market and we have a new entrepreneurial model that comes from the social economy, distributed across Europe, and that means giving equal opportunities to every region in Europe. So the political implication is really straightforward, in my opinion. We need to think of the network of social enterprises, the social economy, as a distributed and diffused incubator and accelerator of high potential enterprises, right? That is an alternative model to the traditional science parks and incubators. If you think of the social economy as an extraordinary incubator accelerator of high potential enterprises, diffused in these regions that are lagging behind, you may understand the extraordinary potential of great equalizer of the social economy in Europe. And if you connect the market distributed across Europe, the entrepreneurial model, and impact investors, this is an industrial value chain. If it is not an industrial value chain, I don't know what an industrial value chain is.
Thank you very much, Professor Calderini. Very, very good points you raised in your reply. Just to be quick, unfortunately, because we run out of time, we will address the other three questions for Davina, Marcus, and Carol by email, and we will reply in our follow-up of this event. I would like to thank you to our speakers for the insightful speeches.
Don't let me with the regret of having stolen time to Carol.
No worries, everything
I want
is
to hear Carol answer.
We can do a perfect follow-up by email, no worries, and also with Davina too. I would like also to thank you to all the audience because they were very dynamic and they addressed many, many questions. And just to recall the paper, the position paper of EVPA, that actually is a big step on this path for the EU Social Economy Action Plan. The EVPA 5 recommendations that Bianca listed at the beginning of this presentation should be taken into consideration during the adoption and implementation of the EU Action Plan for Social Economy. And EVPA strongly believe that this policy position paper could be a valuable tool to systematically propose solutions to the current challenges that also our speakers mentioned today within the social economy ecosystem. So taking stock on the current developments of the EU Social Economy Action Plan and also looking a bit forward, EVPA aims to translate this engagement into concrete actions. Just for your interest, the paper will be published online very soon. So we invite you all to check the EVPA website and also to subscribe and follow the EVPA newsletter. Finally, just a short survey will pop up on your screen, and we would greatly appreciate if you can take 2 minutes to fill this in. Thank you very much to everybody, and we wish you a great afternoon.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.